in metal shaping for close to 40 years now. My main thing I do is I build roof inserts, door skins, and panels for Fords and Chevys and Plymouths and Pontiacs. There was a man named Scott Knott that started the very first metal shaping seminars. So he started these seminars in '86 and I went to one, and I just absorbed everything that he taught me, and he became my mentor and really got me going in a power hammer and metal shaping, something I just fell in love with. And metal shaping, I didn't pick metal shaping, metal shaping picked me. My favorite machine to teach on here at Bailey is the power hammer. I usually bring a buck and we build a couple of roof inserts. It's great to be here. It's great to see all of you here. We're all on our metal shaping journey, and we wound up in Salt Lake City. Isn't that crazy? It's pretty awesome. I went to a second metal shaping seminar. Here's about a year later. Now we're wanting to find equipment. Where are we going to find a power hammer? Where are we going to find a planching hammer? Where are we going to get kick shrinkers? And all they had back then was these big tool catalog books, sale books. And so we would scour through all these books trying to find tools, and we'd go on these cross-country runs going everywhere, just seeking out leads to find equipment. And eventually I got my hammer and my planching hammer and my pull max, but it took years. So there was no information and there was no tools available, okay? So fast forward, here we are, 40 years later. Chris, wherever he is, where'd he go? All these amazing equipment, amazing. Bailey and Shane, wherever he is, they're like drug dealers. They're pushing their junk on us. We love it. We gotta have it. So I'm gonna be using this power hammer here. I have a Yoder power hammer. I've had it since 1988, so however long that is. We did a series with Bailey doing I call it the Pepsi Challenge, the Yoder and the Bailey and the Pullmax and the Bailey, and we built these panels for this truck. And so I learned so much about the machines. Chris, the genius he is, I just was intrigued by this mechanical hammerhead. I mean, this is just crazy looking, right? Well, actually, it's a design from the 1880s, something like that. It's called a DuPont spring. The Yoder and Pettingales, it's a bow arc spring. And if you'll notice on the Pettingales and the Yoders, they got a belt in there, a fabric belt. Well, that's what this chain is. It's just like it, but different, if that makes sense. The springs are here instead of having the big bow spring. So that was really intriguing to me to see how this machine works, because it has the same throw as the Yoder. The greatest metal shaper of all time was the guy who figured out how to build a power hammer, because your wrist has a swinging motion like this, right? The power hammer has a swinging motion like that. Then the same dude thought up, okay, well, I'm going to do these different dies. So this is my hammer that I'm holding in my hand, and this is my dolly on the bottom, okay? So they just motorized your hand and arm, okay? Then the genius came up with this, I'm going to put a linear stretch die in there to match my linear hammer that I'm using, or linear dolly to do stretch. And then I have it at home. The patent from 1910, these two dudes from Finland that were in Indianapolis at the time patented the shrinking die. And in that patent, they describe exactly how to use it. So the greatest metal shapers that ever lived were the guys that figured out how to make this stuff in the beginning. So that's where we're at today. We got these amazing machines that do all this amazing work. We have the availability of good material, good classes, knowledge. Okay, with all that being said, we're going to make a roof insert. My specialty is making roof inserts and door skins for early Ford, Chevys, Dodges, Plymouths, whatever. I've done pushing 3,300 of them now. So I've done a lot of roof inserts. This buck here, this is a 34 Ford buck for a 3-window or a 5-window. It's just this extra 3 inches right here. The 3 windows shorter and the 5 windows 2.5 inches longer. But it's the same profiles. I made this buck in 1993, so I've used it a lot. Make them out of steel. And then for quick and dirty bucks, I'll make them out of sheet metal. I just cut out my profiles, slot them, put it together, something to make me a quick and dirty buck if I've got a one-off thing I got to make. So I like working with bucks so I can see where I'm going. Flat panels are unique because you really can't paper pattern this because it's flat. It's basically flat. Model A is even flatter. This is the medium height, all real low crown, like the panel's 44 inches wide and it's raised 3/4 and out in the middle, so it's real low crown. 35, 36 is a little bit higher. This is the kind of the middle of the road on the 33, 34. It's hard to paper pattern that, so that's why I rely upon my buck so much as to tell me where I'm going. And I don't really read the panel from the top, I read it from the bottom. I look at how the light's shining underneath my stations here, so I can see if I'm high or low or whatever. I know from doing them many years that I got more shape in the corners. I got more more shape in the back. So I know, by looking at your buck, you just kind of look at what you've got. Now, when you make your buck for like a roof, this is very important. This front profile, and this profile, and this profile, and that profile are the same as the windshield opening arc, the profile of the top of the windshield. If your buck's too flat, then your roof's going to look like it's got a low spot in it. If your buck's too tall in the middle, then it's going to look like it's got a bubble in it. So all these bucks are made using the front of the windshield, okay? So that's how I got that profile. And then this profile is obviously from the side, from the front of the roof to the back. And it gradually goes up. So this same profile in the front just climbs with it and then drops back down in the back. And that's important because you want on a big panel like that, you don't want it to be, you got to be sure that you're the same side to side and it grows front to back to follow the roof. If you're not consistent, then your roof could be flat and high over here and flat. When you look at it from the side, it's flat. So when you're making your bucks, use a lot of visual, light, and just take your time and study whatever it is you're trying to, whatever shape you're trying to mimic. That being said, that explains the buck. On the power hammer, always when you're shaping panels, top die is flat, always flat. If you put a radius die in here and you have a radius die on the bottom, then you have a tiny compact contact point, and all you're going to get is dents everywhere, and that's not what you want. So the top die is always flat. My bottom die, when I'm doing my panels, like Mike said earlier, always use the flattest die you can start with. Or, I have one die that I do all my panels with, and it's I don't even know what the radius is, but I'm going to call it a 36. That's what we have in here. It's a 36. I've just sanded on it till I got it where I'm happy with how it is, so I don't even know what the radius is. So always remember, flat top on the top, lowest crown die you have on the bottom. This one's a 36. I like to run my machine real fast so my hits overlap. And the other thing different on a power hammer versus a wheeling machine is you do not have to track. You're not trying to stay in track. Like Mike said earlier, it's a linear hit. It's a round hit, It's a round hit, so the energy is going 360 degrees from the impact. So that's the beauty of power hammer. If I have a low spot in the middle of this panel, I can go in there and just get this low spot, okay? If I have to wheel through it, generally I've stretched it some more. Now it's deeper than it was before. Has anybody ran into that? I can't English wheel. I just can't do it. It's too hard. It's too damn hard. And then I get to going this way and it drives that way and it's terrible. It's ugly. So that's the cool thing about the power hammer. The other thing to know on these low crown panels, 100% of this shape right here in the middle is dedicated by the outside 3 inches of this panel, okay? So if you get too much shape in this, which I hope that's what we're going to do, we're going to get too much shape in there, All we have to do is hammer our outside edges, let it loose, and it'll fall right back down flat. So you can go up and down with it and never lose control. Just remember that, you know, there's only 3 things you can do with a piece of sheet metal, in my opinion. Shrink it, like Mike did with the mechanical thumb dies. Stretch it, like we're going to do. And fold it, which is forming. And if you stick with those 3 things, and remember, if I've got a high spot, then that means it needs shrunk. If I've got a low spot, it needs to come up. So that way it's not over confusing, because it's only 3 things. There's only 3 things we can do. On this panel, I'll get started on this panel. This panel here, this is 19 gauge sheet metal. It's just cold rolled. So it's just 19 gauge cold roll. The body's 19 gauge. What I do before I get started is I bring up the corners. All I do is, when you start on the hammer, if your metal's going to try to flop around on you, especially a bigger piece. So I just put a little form in it. I just grab the corners. I just do that. Okay, so I use WD-40. As I was telling Chris yesterday, I used to mix up oil and turpentine, whatever it was, and I wasn't mixing it correctly, and I made it too thick. And so when I was hammering my panels, the hammer was hydraulicking the oil into the panel and would leave a divot, and I couldn't figure out what it was. One night, it's 3 in the morning, I'm working on some stuff. This is back when I was young and loved working all night. And I ran out of that oil, and so I had to finish this panel, so I grabbed a can of WD-40, did the panel, and there were no ringlets, and ding, 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 the light came on. So now I'm a major shareholder in WD-40. If you're doing your panels with dry gloves, then the oil is going to soak into your gloves, and your edges of your panel are going to be dry. If you don't have lubrication on your panel, when you try to run it through this die, it's going to stick. And you want it to be able to glide. And that's why I try to keep my gloves wet. I was going to bring the gloves I used, but they're so gross, I knew nobody else would want to put them on. So I brought some new ones. But I always oil them, because I want to keep my panels wet so as I shape. So I just start in the corners, the back, come forward. Now if I had to build 10 of these 34 3-window roof inserts, I had to build 10 of them in a row, every one of them is going to be different to get to the end result. Because I'm not a machine, and so I may overstretch right here in the beginning, overstretch right here, and I got to let it out and do these changes to make this thing where the final product fits on here perfect. So each time's different, so that's why it doesn't get boring. Sometimes you'll go in there, if you're in a good mood, I can make a 34 3-window roof insert, 25 minutes, done, beautiful. Or if I go in there and I'm in a bad mood or I'm tired, it's an hour and 15 minutes. So the human factor plays a lot into it. So I'm just going to start in the corners, the back corners, in the middle, and I'll get some shape in it, and then I'm going to have you guys come up and we're going to help me shape this thing. Okay, so that's kind of the first pass. Just getting some shape in the corners. Obviously, there's going to be more shape in the middle and more shape in the back. See, that's the other cool thing about doing this on a power hammer. If you're doing this on English wheel, you got to have somebody on the other side. And they've got to be able to think kind of like what you're thinking so you guys aren't fighting each other. So now I'm just going to go 90 and start in the middle. And as you get more comfortable with it, when you first start off, you're going to be staring at the die hitting the panel, right? Just going to be staring at the die. Okay? What I do is like, when I'm coming in here like this, I'm hitting right here, but I'm looking behind it to see where I need to raise it up, okay? Or not hit it. Because whatever's going on right here is already done. It's already, you know, that's history. This over here is what I need to look at. So it takes time to be comfortable with this thing going up and down in your front of your face. You'll get your rhythm. You know, you'll learn your own particular rhythm. And then where the die is, the exact place the die is hitting, you're not really concerned with because you'd already thought about it when you were right here, okay? So that's one thing that you'll learn as time goes on. You're not staring at the die. You're looking at where you need to go or not go. So I'm going to put a little bit more in the back here, and then I'm going to have you guys come help me do this. The other thing is you can change the amount of stretch and how much you're stretching without changing the machine just by slowing down or speeding up. So I call it dwell time. So if you're hauling ass, there's not much dwell time in the area you're working. But if you slow down, you can really raise an area up fast. Okay, so you got your dwell time. So if you're going fast, you're going to raise a larger area. If you slow down in one spot, you can bring that one spot up a whole lot real quick. Okay, here's a good thing about shape and form. Okay? If that was laying on a buck that was that form, look like that, that's how much shape it would take to lay on a buck that was like that. But if it was on a buck that was shaped like that, that's how much shape it would take to get it to fit on a buck like that. So you got your shape and your form. And so when you're shaping to a form, it takes X amount of shape to make this form. Okay? So always remember that the difference between shape and form. Shape is shrink and stretch only. That's shape. Shrink and stretch. The form is whatever you're laying it over or trying to match it to or whatever your end result is. So let's see what we got going on here. First hit, we need a butt load in the middle. You can look under. Okay, here. It's all right here. We need a bunch right here. You're first. Yep. All right, so we got more shape in. We have more shape here. This is overstretched a little bit, but that's okay. I'll come in here and tune this up, pop this back up, and then we'll check, see where we're at. Looking pretty good in the back. We're going to need a whole bunch right here. We're going to need a whole bunch right here. So I'll pull this up, and then we'll get on these edges. Getting a little dry here. But see, just going around that low spot radially and loosening up the material around it, that automatically just started coming up on its own. If you get in that low spot, the reason it's low like that is it's already overstretched. So if you get in there trying to raise it up, it's just going to get deeper because you're just continually stretching. If you accidentally get out here and you stretch it too much, then you have to back in and start making passes to tighten it back up, okay? However, once you tighten that up, some of this shape that's in here has gone out, okay? And that's what I do, like if I overstretch and I'm too high right here, I'll get the back of the panel or the front or the side, a big wave in it, stretch the outside edge a bunch, and then tighten that up, and then that low spot, that high spot, blends out. And that's what I hope we achieve here. We get some high spots in this thing. So I'm going to need some help doing these outside edges. We're going to stay right in here. We're still going to need a little bit more in the middle, but you see how this is pooching up? Okay, this needs stretched right here. Stretch right here. Who's next? All right. Okay, see we got those edges tightened up. See how nice that is? Put a little bit more right here. Then I start looking at my buck. This half over here is high. Got a big low spot right there. Need a whole bunch right here. So we've got to raise this up and blend this off a little bit. Getting too much oil on there. So we need some right in here. Right there. See what we got going on here. Look at that. You just need to come up right here. Starting to lay down on the sides. We'll bring you up right here. Cool? Thank you, sir. All right. Okay. We are overshaped in the middle here. We're about 1/2 inch high above the buck. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start just working the edges and letting everything out. We're now only that far from the buck. Check it out. You see the difference. You can see like this panel here is real close. We're still a little high. We can relieve some in here, over there. It's a little low right there, but we can tune it up. After lunch, I'm going to continue working on this. I've got another one cut out right here. I'll finish this one up, and if you guys are interested, anybody's interested, we can start on another one, and that way everybody can give it a shot. Good. Everybody hungry? Yeah. Thank you.